The City of Shamokin Special Council meeting, June 17, 2020. To start with the pledge to the flag and a brief moment of silence.
Sorry, guys, I got cords on.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Very brief moment. Roll call, Mr. Slavy. Larry, if you want to sit up there, I think one of the ends as well.
Okay. Mrs. Moyer?
Here.
Mrs. Seidel?
Here.
Mr. Roten?
Here.
Mr. Verano?
Here.
And Mayor Brown?
Here.
All present and accounted for.
Okay. Turn it over to Linda. At this time, we'll turn the meeting over to Linda Sterling for our CDBG hearing for COVID virus funds. Correct, Linda?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to check one thing. We have one phone-in participant currently. The number is 274-0270.
Just what it's.
Never mind. I know who. Okay, I guess we're okay. So if somebody can't hear me at any time, just let me know, because we were having some trouble, but it appears that it is all better now. All right. So the first public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Response for the City of Shamokin is starting now. You can resume your regular council meeting after this public hearing. This public hearing is the first step in the process of applying for your 2020 CDBG-CV allocation. Since only 10 people will be allowed to attend in person due to social distancing requirements at your location, the city is offering a virtual public hearing. And at this public hearing, I'm required to share information about the program. Community Development Block Grant Program was created through an act of Congress, and the funds come from the federal government to the state. PA Act 179 of the state government created an entitlement program for municipalities, and it is administered through DCED. The purpose of the CDBG program is to assist the City of Shamokin with enhancing the viability of its city by targeting and funding projects that provide decent housing, a suitable living environment, and expanded economic opportunities, principally for low to moderate income persons. For 2020, the city will receive 2 allocations of funding: your regular CDBG entitlement and a special allocation called CDBG-CV that must be used to respond to, prevent, or plan for COVID-19. Tonight's hearing will focus on the CDBG's COVID-19 funding only. The CDBG regular entitlement hearing will be held at a later date. So tonight I'm going to go over quickly the regulatory requirements that are associated with CDBG projects. We'll discuss known projects for the 2020 funding. We'll discuss obligations of the applicants, and we'll invite proposals from the public. Is everybody with me so far? Is that a yes?
Yes. We're nodding, yes.
I can't see all of you, unfortunately.
I know.
I hope I'm not the only one up on that big screen. That would be awful. Okay, for your allocations for CV, your total allocation is $197,320. Of that, 10% will be used for admin, and it will come to CDBG. That number will be $19,300. That means that you will have $174,432 to spend on projects. So that's $174,432. There's something called urgent need that we will talk about later. But for now, let me just tell you that you will be able to use $52,300 of that $174,432 in urgent need funding. I would like to direct your attention to the screen. There's some dates here I want to share with you. If you'll note The city's going to vote to select its final projects at a special meeting on June 22nd. The projects will be formally approved at the city's virtual final public hearing on Thursday, July 2nd at 6:30 p.m. At least one member of council will need to attend that meeting. The public will have a chance to comment on projects selected for funding for this year's CD funding, as well as previously funded projects at this meeting. And then from that time, the public will have up to 15 days from July 13 to comment on the projects selected. The city will pass the resolution to apply for COVID funding at its regular council meeting on July 13th. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll move on. The grant funds are expected by September 2020. That's what the date that DCD has given us. And I want to go over eligibility under CDBG guidelines for you, just as a refresher. The COVID funding can be used on anything that is eligible for CDBG at any other time. So projects that are eligible include a broad range of activities like infrastructure improvements, road, water, sewer, storm. You can do community centers, there's economic development activities, and public service projects. Most of the projects for COVID will be public service projects. Those typically have a cap, but for the COVID money, that cap has been released. So you're free to use all of your funding for public service if you choose. And public service projects are projects that pay for services and or salaries that it takes to provide those services. So an example of a public service project is equipment for the police or the fire department. Any services that you provide directly to low to moderate income people, like homelessness prevention. There's actually been a public service application for mortgage and rental assistance to low to moderate income people who've been adversely affected by COVID-19 tonight. That's an example of public service. Activities that are not eligible include political activities, general operating expenses, anything considered to be a maintenance activity, as well as any activity that is the general purpose of government to provide to its citizens. There's a full list in your packet,
I don't think they changed it.
and I've put it up on the screen.
Changed it from finance director yet.
Any questions on eligible or ineligible activities?
Let it blank for now. I'll fill it in.
Okay. What, are you talking to me? No.
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 Sorry.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just didn't want to miss anything. Hearing none. And if you need to talk, go ahead. I just will need to make sure that I'm not missing something I should be hearing. Federal and state requirements of the CDBG program require that all projects be funded through one of three national objectives. So a project to be eligible must actually be both eligible and what CDBG calls fundable. Fundability is either 1, the benefit to low to moderate income persons, 2, slum blight, or 3, urgent need. And I will explain a little bit about those right now in more detail. For low to moderate income benefit, 51% of all individuals benefiting from these projects must be of low to moderate income. It's the objective that is most used for CDBG activities. Since 52% of all Shamokin residents are low to moderate income, which we call LMI, any project that benefits the entire city and only the city is automatically fundable. If a project benefits only a certain portion of the city, we must first determine the service area of that project. For example, we surveyed a section of Diamond Street to see if it could be paved because that section of street doesn't benefit the whole city, it just benefits that neighborhood. It was ineligible because we did not get enough responses to the survey. That's just an example. For public service projects, like I discussed earlier, income eligibility will be determined by an in-person interview. And 70% of the city's CDBG funds must always be used to meet this objective. I'm not going to go over elimination of slum blight. I think we've used that a lot in the past and understand it, and I doubt that there's any way we could use that objective to benefit COVID-19 relief. Response to urgent need is the third objective. It's rarely able to be used, but it can be used right now. It requires a formal declaration of disaster or emergency that has occurred in the last 18 months. Both the federal and state governments have declared a state of emergency for us currently because of the COVID virus. 30% of your project funding may be used to respond to an emergency situation generated by the virus that the city or the subgrantee cannot afford. And by subgrantee, I mean if the city chooses to, say, give funding to the fire company, you can put an agreement in place that transfers that funding to another entity within the city or to serve the city. In using urgent need, the objective is actually funded by the emergency, and LMI is not an issue. So the city must have a project that's both eligible and fundable. I sent out a community letter and project summaries on your behalf to known folks that might be interested in applying for some of the COVID funding. I will do that for your entitlement funding as well. And tonight's public hearing is the first step in developing your annual 3-year plan. Anything that's discussed tonight will be added to your plan. Now I just need to make a couple of quick announcements. On the screen is the fair housing resolution. The city has adopted and published this fair housing and has established a plan to further assure fair housing in the county. This resolution is on display at the city, and it gives folks information about what to do if they feel that they have been discriminated against in the matter of housing. Next, you have also adopted an anti-displacement and relocation plan. It's awfully long. So let's just hit the highlights, which are under this plan. If you demolish low to moderate income housing that is able to be used for housing, you must do what's called 1-for-1 replacement of units. You must also relocate anyone who is displaced by any kind of demolition or CDBG projects. And while it's not typically your intent to do either of those things, this plan is in place in the event that you need to use it and can guide your activities. And I'm scrolling because this is really long. You also have a Section 504 compliance officer and a grievance procedure. That's on the screen right now. Your 504 compliance officer is Mr. Slady. And Section 504 determines that no one can be discriminated against because of any reason wait, I'm sorry, let me start over. So no one can be discriminated against as far as accessibility to the city's facilities and programs, to the language, mobility, vision, hearing, or learning impaired persons. So this grievance procedure gives an outlet to an individual to whom that applies to talk to someone at the city if they feel that they have been discriminated against, and a way to enact grievance. And finally, there is a Section 3 preference. That means that CDBG activities give preference to low to moderate income individuals as employers or employees or to start businesses. And if anyone would like more information about that, they can contact me at CDCOG. And okay, that's the end of the regular regulations. Any questions there? Oh, thanks for the head nod, Doreen. Now we're moving. Projects that are currently funded using CDBG or recently completed in the city include 2 dangerous properties at 54 East Sunbury Street and 911 West Sunbury Street have been demolished recently. The city expects to demolish 661 Bear Valley Avenue, 663 Bear Valley Avenue, and 122 East Independence Street during this construction season. The city also uses funding each year in support of code enforcement for the low to moderate income block groups within the city and to assist the fire department, the joint fire departments, in a payment of for an emergency vehicle. The city completed road improvements last fall and will reconstruct a section of First Street this construction season or next. I have received 2 requests for funding through the outreach that we did. One is for $100,000 from CSO, the Central Susquehanna, forgive me, I can never remember what the O stands for.
Opportunity.
Opportunities, thank you. That project would hire a caseworker specifically to respond to COVID needs, and it would give up to 3 months assistance paying rent, mortgage, and utilities to any low to moderate income household in the city who applies and has been negatively impacted by the virus. This project is actually Northumberland County wide, and we, with CSO's assistance, we have all set up what's called fair share, where each municipality that would like to participate and have these benefits available to their residents can pay a portion of what is totally a $502,000 project for Northumberland County. So the $100,000 that CSO has applied for through Shamokin would be used to assist Shamokin residents. And that funding is not, it's flexible. That's of course, that's the amount that's been asked for, but it will be council's decision how much to award. Any questions on that request?
Linda, you're saying that money will stay in the city, not go across the county, correct?
Yes. The city will be the first need addressed. If for some reason you can't meet that need, it could go across the county, but I mean, Gail can chime in here, but looking at their records and from what Gail's explained to me, I don't believe that that's going to be an issue. There's typically a lot of need in Shamokin.
Yes.
Okay. And just as I've worked with CSO quite a bit, and the thing that I really like is their ability to track and see where their funding goes and how responsive they are. So they have a good track record doing this sort of work.
Linda, how much of the money goes to pay the salary of the person compared to the money that would actually go to the community?
That the salary is shared, and I can get that. Gail, do you know that off the top of your head? I have a budget form from you that I can check and answer that.
No, I don't have that right. I don't have that right with me, but it would be, it's a 2-year project. I'm going to say somewhere around 22,000 a year.
Would be the city share?
I'm not sure. Or no, I'm sorry. That would be the whole thing. Yes.
That would be the whole thing.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
There, I know we're putting Gail on the spot here, and Mayor, if you want individual breakdowns, I can send that to you.
I was just wondering how much of the 100,000 was eaten up by salary and how much actually went to the community for COVID help.
I understand that concern. One of the things that I think is really important about this proposal is that salary, though, because, excuse me, people do not know where to get help, do not know that help's available. And this individual could also be used to help people in the city with other COVID-related things. Can direct other assistance. They can help them in whatever way they need. So I think CSO's intent is certainly to have this person be a real resource during this time. Gail, do you have anything to add to that?
Since March 17th till June 1st, we helped 587 Shamokin residents due to the COVID virus.
Wow.
The majority of our people are from Shamokin that we help. And last year with rental assistance, we assisted 100 and duplicated with utility assistance and 59 individuals with rent assistance. So a total of 232 residents.
So those are the numbers that you were basing your proposal from, correct?
Yes, yes, and that's in our project narrative.
Yes. Yeah, I do have Gail filled out what we call a project summary that I mailed out. There's a lot of details on this program, and I can share those with Doreen by email so that anyone who wants to look at more detail can certainly do that. We can also talk about it more tonight too. You will not need to make a decision until, don't get dizzy, I'm gonna scroll.
While you're scrolling, you said the city's portion would be $22,000 and it's a 2-year project. Does that make it $44,000 or is it $22,000 for the 2-year period?
Gail, I believe that would be, if I'm not, please correct me it would be 22,000 for both years.
No, it would be 44 for
Okay.
salaries and benefits for 2 years.
But is that just, okay, I'm sorry, is that just Shamokin's portion?
Yes.
Of 44,000 for 2 years, okay.
Yeah.
So that would leave,
That would only be 20 hours a week charged to the grant.
okay. So a little less than, it's less than 50%, probably about 45%, I think, but math isn't my strong suit. You will select projects on Monday. So some projects may come in the time being, and I will certainly get those to you. When we have the meeting on Monday at 6:30, that will be a virtual meeting from what I understand. And we can talk in more detail at that time too. I'm just telling you this so that you understand how much time you have and how the decisions will need to be made. So I want to make sure I get you all the information you need to make those decisions. Okay, are there any, is there more questions? Would you like me to give any more detail from the project summary or the budget?
Linda, it's Jennifer Seidel. Hi. Thank you for being here. There's a discussion going on. We're just trying to understand the CSO proposal. You were muffled at one point, so it was going out. And could you just break down the numbers again? We heard 22, 44, but we don't know which is going where. So $22,000 a year is the salary and benefits combined for a caseworker.
For a year.
$22,000 a year, yes.
Yes.
So it's over a 2-year project. That would be $44,000 for that.
Right. Yes.
So that leaves
Yes.
$56,000. Is that direct assistance to the citizens of Shamokin?
Yes, that's the support services for rent, mortgage, and utilities.
My question was the CSO, this is a countywide project, correct?
Yes.
So,
Right.
so is Sunbury also paying $44,000 towards the single employee, or do they get an employee all of their own and we get an employee all of our own?
Sunbury,
For
I
the
don't know
city of
that they-
Shamokin.
what's that? Gail, could you talk again? You were muted.
Muffled. It's really muffled. I'm having a hard time with hearing everybody. But
Oh.
this would be a person to work with just Shamokin residents so that they could determine the needs of just the city of Shamokin, so that we would be able to work with the rental assistance and the mortgage. So we would track everything by their zip codes.
Okay.
I think you have to re-ask the second part of the question.
Yeah, so the funding is a single person working in the city of Shamokin. And I'm assuming you're going to approach Sunbury, it would be a single person working in Sunbury, not one person working in Shamokin and Sunbury.
Right, right.
Okay.
So right now, like we have case managers in Sunbury, we have case managers in Shamokin, we have a case manager in Milton. So it would all depend on the money that would be available and the time that would have to go into it. And that's how we would determine how many people would be hired.
Should we get,
So how many people you hire depends on how many municipalities accept your proposal.
Well, yes, it's going to depend on, like, if Shamokin approves this, then we would fill in the to cover Shamokin. And we did submit the budget. And I'm not sure, Linda, if you shared that.
I can. I just found it. I'm going to put it up on
Okay.
the screen.
we need a
I'm
copy.
just, okay, here we go. There it is. Okay, can you see it?
So,
Linda.
no, if you scroll down, so if you'll see, that's the hourly rate, hours per week. 50% of the person would be charged to this grant, 20 hours per week to the grant for 104 weeks that's the total salary.
Any questions on that? I'll scroll.
Yeah, look on
If
here.
you move over, do you see the, okay. There's your
Is this
support
okay?
services.
Oh, my glasses
I
are
think you
off.
should be able to see the rest. There's some operating expenses, and then there's 51,000 in direct assistance.
Linda, could you scroll back up to the salary?
There it is.
44,000, okay. $15.11 an hour.
All right, maybe I just can't excuse my reach. I know you're saying 22, but I don't see 22 on the screen anywhere. That's
No,
why I didn't know if I was
there's no
looking at the
22.
wrong thing.
A year, so this is a 2-year proposal. It's 22 a
If you
year.
look at the top, it says CSO cares for CDBG-CV and Shamokin 2 years.
That last column.
And then on the side, there's a column that shows the total cost
They're
to
better.
this CDBG-CV grant for 44,000.
There's the 44 at the bottom.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Is it clear now?
Yeah, we
Yep.
were having trouble
Yeah,
seeing.
we could. All right.
Well, yeah, I can certainly understand, but you can ask as many questions as you need to. That's what tonight's for.
I can't though. Hold on.
Okay, do you want to see any other part of this? Does anybody have any more questions?
Only half is going to go to the citizens.
No more questions on the CSO proposal? Okay, hang on a second. I am going to put the agenda back up. There we go. All right, there was a second proposal received. and that was from the Shamokin Fire Bureau.
Okay.
$4,099 for iPad purchases and $4,898 for protective gear and supplies. And if you would like to see exactly what that protective gear and supplies are, I can put that on the screen for you.
Linda, how much were the iPads?
$4,099. And just so you know, there is a concern about whether that would be eligible. DCD is being very strict about having a project benefit COVID-19. So even if it's going to help COVID-19, but it's going to have a benefit beyond COVID-19, they are not interpreting that as responding to the COVID-19 virus. Those iPads will actually allow the city public fire bureau services to be in better contact with, I mean, it's part of a larger program that's really good. It will certainly benefit during the COVID crisis, but it's going to have benefit beyond that. It's going to improve the entire Bureau's response. So I'm still working with the DCD, my grants manager, to see how we can fund it.
Linda, what was the amount for protective gear?
$4,898. Would you like to see that list?
Yes, if you put it up.
Okay. Just a minute.
You think it would autofocus, but it's not. Unless it's just my eyes.
That one comes out nice and clear.
Oh, it's mostly just my eyes.
It's on that screen.
It's on there and there. I have it here. It's
Is
there.
everything okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty
So
much.
here's the quote. And this is for a certain kind. Scott, do you remember the name of them? This is for a certain kind of mask that the Bureau needs and they're currently sharing. And it's, hang on one second. I have to get to the rest of I'll read the proposal to you because I'm not familiar enough with what this is to speak intelligently. Okay, the expenses to purchase are for SCBA masks for breathing. Currently, our firefighters share masks during events that are required to use them. This funding would help the first responders have their own mask once they're fitted for a specific size. And that end result would stop contamination among the firefighters.
Yeah.
So that is the cost for that gear, $4,898.50. Any questions?
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wait,
Linda,
one.
Yeah.
That's all you're.
quantity is only one.
Mhm.
How many do you need?
I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
something's not up there.
I didn't notice that, Scott, so thank you for that. Let me follow up with Steve. And see if there needs to be more to this proposal.
Quantity requested, study issue
So that math don't even add up.
For what they're asking for to be issued.
Chris, are you talking? We can't hear you.
No, I was writing myself a note, sorry. I'm going to check in with Steve Jeffries, who submitted this for me, and just make sure I understand
I'm gonna give her a fucking break. She's not from here.
why there's only one quantity. And I will get back to you, Doreen, with an answer. Scott, I'll email you, email Mr. Slaby and the mayor, anyone else who wants the information. And I'll bring make sure that the information I bring to the meeting on Monday is correct.
Thank you. Yeah, Chris, mute your line.
I believe that might get you about.
Chris, why?
How many, Scott?
Well, like quick math, I believe might get you around 13 cents at that price. You got those top three numbers up. And divide it into the 45.54.
I hear, are there questions for me?
Now we were doing
The
some.
monies themselves.
Oh, okay. Any more questions on that proposal?
Now,
No, Linda.
Okay. Let me just get back to where we were and we'll finish this up. We're not.
Linda, on proposals, there's also one here from the
Okay.
police department.
Okay, that's great.
I don't have it with me because Bob took it to use as a tablet and it's somewhere in the room now.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry for the problem with the tablet, but we can certainly work through this because it's probably more important that you see that proposal than I do.
Do I just get this proposal to you?
Yes.
You, okay.
Don't trip.
Does anybody want me
Thank
to
you.
read it in its entirety right now?
I can circulate it.
I'll just give you a little sheet that shows the three proposals and the costs for the meeting on Monday.
Okay, he'll have it to you tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds great.
Mhm.
Cindy, can you email me a copy of that?
I'm sorry, Scott, I didn't email
Can
you
you
a copy
email
of.
Scott a copy of the Fire Bureau proposal?
Yes, I will do that.
This goes with this.
I'm just writing a note. So I don't forget. Okay, I don't need to really share the screen anymore unless somebody wants information. So at this time, I'd like to give anyone present online or there the opportunity to propose other projects for CDBG funding consideration or to discuss project ideas or needs.
Linda, it's Jennifer.
Yes?
We have a
His
need
list.
for infrared thermometers to scan for City Hall and for the pool. Mobile hand washing stations for the playgrounds in order to encourage safe practices, but they have to be mobile because we don't have water sources there.
Mm-hmm.
The hand dryers that they're currently using, they are broken and they were switched out to towels. And we'd like to replace the hand dryers.
Do you want to go with a mobile water system, or are you interested in a hand sanitizer?
Mobile water system would be ideal, at the very least, hand sanitizer.
Okay, what I'll need for that is a quote that shows like how much per item and how many would be needed for the meeting. Is there someone who can help get me that information?
Yes.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
Okay. And there's also a chance that
For a couple days.
Kevin Richardson had some needs and unless these are ones that he pointed out. I know he's off because of a surgery.
I have some of his lists too, Linda.
Okay, good.
We also, because of the way the lunch program was set up this year, our picnic tables aren't exactly set up for great sanitization. So we're looking to expand into the side parking lot and get picnic tables that can be sanitized. We'd also need garbage receptacles to expand that area so we could promote social distancing but still provide the free lunch program. And that would also be another mobile hand washing station. And then for the street department to be able to sanitize the equipment without having to use an outside contractor, they're requesting the backpacks that have the no-touch spray in them. They're battery-operated sprayers, and we were looking at 7 of those.
Okay, I'll need an estimate, like the same thing for that too. Is that a possibility?
Yes, he has that information. He's getting that to me
Okay.
tomorrow.
Great. All right, good. Anything else?
Linda, how do we take public comment? You just want somebody to stand up and speak?
Yeah, please.
There's a microphone right there, sir.
And just identify who you are so I can keep track of the comments and who made them, please.
Hi, Linda, it's Bob Dirk.
Okay, hi.
Was just thinking on the same thing that Jennifer touched about, sanitizing areas and that, and looking at things like over where the band shell is, where the food service and that is, and of course people come and put their hands on it. That's all wood, very porous, old wood. It would be very hard to keep sanitized. Perhaps that could be replaced with like trash, which is a plastic wood, which would be much easier to keep clean and sanitized. Same thing if we're looking at stuff like that. A lot of our benches, the picnic tables over there at the band shell also would, they could all be replaced with that trash, which would make cleanup and sanitizing those areas a lot easier.
That's thank you for bringing that up. Is there someone that can price that out?
Yes, we have the information for the picnic tables and the mobile hand washing. Claude Taylor was included in that.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other public comment? And if someone on the line wants to comment, please just speak up.
Is there someone?
Yeah, there's 2 people on the line. Okay, any other ideas? Any others? No? Okay, then at this time, I'd like to give anybody present the opportunity to comment on any CDBG projects or any concerns about historical or environmental impacts.
Any at all, not just COVID related?
Yeah, it's part of the process. I'll ask this question also for the regular CDBG hearing. Whenever we have public meetings, he likes us to give citizens the opportunity to comment on any CDBG projects.
Just a quick question for you, Linda. We had talked about selling off some of the properties / lots around the city.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them that were torn down with CDBG funds. If we provide you with a list, since we've discussed that, we've had several people come in and offer to buy properties.
Mm-hmm.
If we can forward you that list, can you get together how we go through that process to get rid of those properties?
Yes, I can. And the thing that will be important is what year CDBG funding that was. You're going to want to make sure that 5 years have passed and that you've been monitored. Now, you have not been monitored in a really long time. And, I mean, you've been desk monitored and John Gears has come up, but like typically someone comes and monitors all records from the actual department, from DCED above John Gears. So I'm going to I have to talk to John tomorrow about something else, and I'm going to ask him about if it's safe for you to use that 5-year period. So I'll get the answer to that. And the reason that we need to go 5 years is there's something called change in use. And if you sell a lot and someone wants to build on it, that would be a change in use. Now, if you sell a lot and a neighbor's going to use it as part of their property for a bigger yard or parking or something, that's not considered change in use. But after 5 years has passed, change in use doesn't apply. And there's also a caveat, if not more than $25,000 in CDBG funding was spent on the demolition, change in use doesn't apply. So I'll just need to have some details about project costs and funding, and then I can certainly work through that.
Okay, thank you. I'll have Bob get you a list tomorrow.
Okay. So is there anyone that has concerns about any 504 review issues? Lack of accessibility for learning, hearing, vision, impaired people with disabilities?
No.
Okay, that's all the information that I need to get through according to DCD. Council people, you're clear on the process? We're going to have now the meeting on Monday does not necessarily need to be virtual. I could come there and meet with you if you're not expecting more people than could fill the room.
I prefer in person than virtual, to be honest with you, Linda.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that. And the only reason we had virtual tonight was to make sure that we were going to have enough people. I mean, because you don't know how much room you have there. So I'll come in person on Monday. We will discuss the proposals as much as you need to, answer any questions that you have, and then you will want to allocate. Let me get back to my original notes. We'll want to allocate your project funding of $174,432. You can allocate that into several projects, however you want to do it. And you'll just need to make a selection by the end of the night so that we can advertise it in the newspaper for your final public hearing. And that'll give citizens one more chance to comment. And then we can put the application through by the July 31st deadline. Any questions for me?
I don't know if it gets some refreshments like a half or something.
Doreen, I need a head shake. Okay, we got it. Now, I believe that there is a possibility that you're going to want to reconvene a council meeting to discuss business not related.
Yes.
The people that would be on the line are on just to talk about the public hearing, because that's how it was advertised. Is there any reason that you would like me to be part of your meeting?
No.
Okay, so I will end this public hearing now. The time is 7:17, and then you're free to go on with business because it was publicly advertised in the paper once the hearing is over. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All righty, I'll see you Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Linda.